Hello, I'm Sarah King. Welcome to Make It Monday. Today we're going to do a watercolor painting technique that actually I just learned about not too long ago, so I wanted to share it with you all. I'm going to do this on like a heavy paper in my journal that is multimedia paper, or you could use actual watercolor paper. I would just say don't use something super thin like computer paper. You want it to be at least like cardstock heaviness in order for the paint not to totally soak through. So we are going to try watercolor with wax and salt and see what that does to our design. The design I'm working with today comes from a journal prompt that I did in a workshop recently. And the journal prompt was about bubbles. Actually, what is bubbling up to the surface? So, you know, for example, sometimes you may have a sense about something, but you can't really put your finger on exactly what your intuition is telling you. That's what we were speaking about. And we decided to go ahead and create a little bubble page here. So the bubbles are all here. You can use loose change to trace these if you are not super comfortable drawing circles. And then I did a little top of the water and then wrote on here things that I'm sensing that is bubbling up to the surface for me right now, whether that has to do with what I desire in life, in my career, in the direction of this business, in relationships. Just what do I sense about what is coming up for me? Right now, we're in the midst of quarantine still. You know, we're in 2020. There's a lot of growth potential right now. There's a lot of creative power circling around as we are more still to listen to our inner voice. So first off, you want to go ahead and set up your page if you want to do this. Otherwise, you can just choose a blank page and paint it. So for me, I made circles and made little try to get a little closer here, a little marks inside that I'm going to use to create the bubbles. And then today we're going to create the water. All right, let's go. All right, so I have my setup here with my journal page. I'm going to use foil so that the paint doesn't soak through to the page underneath it. I also have salt. This is a mix of kosher salt and table salt. You can use whatever type of salt you have on hand. I got a water bucket. You could just use a plastic cup if you don't have one of these. And then, you know, old school kindergarten style watercolors. You could mix the paint in the lid. I have this handy dandy little tray that I'm going to use to mix paint in. And then finally I have a white crayon. Now you can use just like a Crayola crayon, you know, borrow it from your kids' set. It does not have to be white. If you can't find a white one, that's fine. Use whatever color you want. You can also use a candlestick if you can't find a white crayon. So the first thing you're going to do is trace the bubbles that you made. Or if you're not doing the bubble page, you could just make any sort of design with the white crayon on. So I'm going to go ahead and trace these. All right, now that I have traced in crayon, I'm going to go ahead and mix paint. So I'm going to use blue for my water. Just going to try to get a lot of going here. And more water in. You do want the paint to be pretty wet for this in order for it to work. Okay, now that I have some blue paint, I'm going to fill in the water on my picture. And you can go ahead and paint over everything. And what you'll notice is the parts where you did not, or the parts where you drew the white crayon will not fill in. So pretty cool. I had written some words on here and I wasn't planning to paint this when I did. And now the words are going to smudge, but that's okay. If you want to write words, I would recommend doing it in pencil in order for the water not to bleed through, to make your words bleed. But I actually don't mind. It's kind of making it look kind of neat and underwatery, so I'm right with it. So I've got a wet page of water here. Fill in some more. Awesome. Okay, now the fun part. Now we're going to sprinkle salt on the page. Just gonna sprinkle it all over. I'm hoping this will give us an even more kind of underwatery feeling. I have heard that it needs to be very wet. Hopefully this is wet enough in order to make this work. All right, the next step is just to let this dry. So I'm going to show you what it looks like once the paint is dry. Okay, it has been a few minutes. I've let the paint dry. Let's see how it did. So I'm going to carefully just brush off the salt. Now what you get is a subtle texture. See, like in here where the kind of looks almost bubbly? And in here, I think that was the area where the paint was most wet, so it seems like it showed up the best on there. There's a little bit of texture in here and down here. Very cool. All right, it has been a few minutes. I brush off the salt and I'll pick it up so you guys can see a little closer. On the green, we really do have some texture in there. Gives it that nice sort of underwater nature feeling. That is it for today. I will see you on next Make It Monday.